The first guest to check into my hotel on that Tuesday was a dead man. Not literally dead, not yet, but looking back, I realised that's exactly what Ryan Carter was. A walking ghost who'd come to haunt every corner of my life. I watched him sign the register with practiced flourishes, his Mont Blanc pen dancing across the paper. My hotel, the Thompson, wasn't the kind of place that usually attracted men in $3,000 suits and hand-stitched Italian leather shoes. We were boutique, yes, but more vintage charm than modern luxury. "Beautiful restoration work," he said, gesturing to the original crown moulding. "You don't see this kind of attention to detail anymore. I'm Eva, and I've spent the last decade restoring this place to its former glory. It was my parents' legacy before the accident, and now it's mine." Thank you. The moulding nearly bankrupted me, but I couldn't bear to see it replaced with something modern. His smile reached his eyes. I'll give him credit for that. Later, I'd learn how he practiced those smiles in mirrors, perfecting every crinkle. Sometimes the most expensive choice is the only right choice. He leaned in slightly, cologne, subtle but expensive. "I'm in town for a few weeks. Any chance you'd let me buy you dinner? I'd love to hear more about the restoration." I should have said no. Should have seen how his interest was too perfect, too practiced. But loneliness is a hell of a drug, and I'd been sober for far too long. "I don't typically have dinner with guests," I said, but I was already reaching for his keycard. Already imagining how the story would sound when I told my sister Lily about the handsome stranger who'd swept me off my feet. "I respect that completely." He stepped back, hands raised in playful surrender. "How about after I check out? Then I'm just another admirer of fine architecture and beautiful hotel managers." I felt the heat rise in my cheeks, hating myself for being so easily charmed. "Maybe. We'll see how well you treat my hotel." Challenge accepted. He took the keycard, his fingers brushing mine. "Room 412, was it? The corner suite with the bay windows. Best view in the house." "I doubt that," he said, eyes locked on mine. I watched him walk to the elevator, wheeling his expensive luggage behind him. My phone buzzed. Lily, right on cue. She had a sixth sense for drama. "You'll never believe who just checked in," I said, answering before the second ring. "Tell me everything," she demanded. "Is he gorgeous? Rich? Single?" "All of the above, apparently." I lowered my voice as another guest approached the desk. "Dinner at Marco's tonight? I'll fill you in." God, yes. Finally, something interesting happens in this town. If only we'd known what kind of interesting was walking into our lives. If only I'd noticed how he'd known about the bay windows in 412 before I mentioned them. If only I'd wondered why a man who could afford the Four Seasons chose my modest hotel instead. But that's the thing about perfect moments. They're usually perfectly orchestrated. Ryan Carter had spent months planning his entrance into my life, studying my habits, learning my weaknesses. By the time he signed that register, he knew more about me than most of my friends. I just didn't know I was already cast in his latest production, playing the role of both Mark and unwitting accomplice. The script was written, the stage was set, and I'd just given my first performance without even knowing the show had begun. Looking back, I should have trusted my instincts when Grace, my best friend and event planner, called later that afternoon. "Eva, honey, you're not going to believe who I just got off the phone with. Ryan Carter's assistant. They want to book the entire hotel for a wedding next month." "What?" I gripped the phone tighter. "He just checked in an hour ago." "Exactly," Grace said, her voice tight with concern. "Don't you think that's a little strange?" Strange didn't begin to cover it, but by then the curtain was already rising on Act 1, and I was about to learn just how expensive the right choices could really be. Marco's was packed that night, but Lily was already at our usual corner booth, phone in hand, perfectly styled as always. The difference between us was stark, me still in my work clothes, her looking like she'd stepped out of an Instagram post. Sometimes I wondered if we really were sisters. "He's even better looking in person," Lily said, eyes fixed over my shoulder. I turned to see Ryan entering the restaurant and my stomach dropped. This wasn't coincidence. He'd known exactly where to find us. "Eva," he called out, making his way over. "What a pleasant surprise." Lily's face lit up like a Christmas tree. You must be the mysterious new guest. I'm Lily, Eva's sister. Ryan Carter. He slid into our booth without invitation, right next to Lily. Eva didn't mention she had such a charming sister. I watched them interact, feeling like I was witnessing a car crash in slow motion. Lily laughed too loud at his jokes, touched his arm too often. Ryan matched her energy perfectly, but his eyes kept darting to me, gauging my reaction. "So, what brings you to our little town?" I asked, cutting through their flirtation. "Business opportunities. Your hotel, actually. I'm thinking of investing in similar properties." He pulled out his phone, showing us photos of restored historic buildings. "I've done several projects like this in Boston." Lily leaned in closer. "That's amazing. Eva's been trying to expand for years, but the banks won't take the risk." I shot her a look. We didn't discuss business matters with strangers, especially not my financial struggles. But Lily was already continuing. "You should see her proposal. She's got this whole vision for turning the old Morrison building into a sister hotel." "Lily?" My voice came out sharper than intended. "What?" He could help. God knows you need it after that last rejection. Ryan watched our exchange with careful interest. "I'd love to see the proposal, Eva. Maybe we could discuss it over dinner tomorrow." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Grace's text made my blood run cold. "Did background check. No record of Ryan Carter's company in Boston. Call me Asa P." "I should really keep business and pleasure separate," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Smart woman." Ryan smiled, but something shifted in his eyes. "Though sometimes the best opportunities come from mixing the two." "Eva's always been the careful one," Lily said, rolling her eyes. "Me, I believe in taking chances." "Speaking of chances," Ryan turned to her, "I'm hosting a small gathering at my suite tomorrow evening. Nothing fancy, just drinks and conversation. You should both come." "We'd love to," Lily answered before I could decline. "Actually, I have inventory tomorrow night," I lied, standing up, "and Lily has an early shift at the cafe." "I can switch shifts," Lily protested, but I was already gathering my things. "Another time, perhaps," Ryan said smoothly. "Though I hope you'll reconsider, Eva. Sometimes the best decisions are made outside office hours." Walking home later, Lily wouldn't stop talking about him. "He's perfect for you, Eva. Successful, interested in the same things." "He's not what he seems," I cut in, showing her Grace's text. Lily scoffed. "Grace is just being overprotective. Not everyone has ulterior motives." "You barely know him. And you barely know how to live." She stopped walking, turning to face me. "Ever since Mom and Dad died, you've done nothing but work and worry. Maybe it's time you took a risk." "Maybe it's time you grew up," I snapped back, instantly regretting it. Lily's face hardened. "I'm going to that gathering tomorrow night, with or without you." I watched her storm off, heels clicking against the pavement. My phone buzzed again, another text from Grace. "Found something else. Ryan Carter's brother Mason just filed for bankruptcy protection. Family business gone under. Be careful." The pieces were starting to fit together, but not in any way I liked. Ryan wasn't here by chance, and my sister was walking right into whatever game he was playing. I pulled up my hotel's security app, checking the cameras. Ryan was in the lobby, on his phone, looking far too pleased with himself. Tomorrow night's gathering suddenly seemed like an opportunity I couldn't afford to miss. Sometimes the best way to protect what's yours is to walk straight into the trap. As long as you're the one holding the trigger, the numbers didn't lie. I stared at my laptop screen, cross-referencing the hotel's transaction records with the documents Grace had sent over. Every night since Ryan checked in, there had been a surge of credit card activity. Not just in the rooms he'd booked, but throughout the hotel. Small charges spread across different cards, all just under the reporting threshold. My phone lit up with Lily's text. "Having breakfast with Ryan. He has amazing ideas for the Morrison building renovation." The Morrison building. My dream project, now being dangled like bait. I clicked through another set of transactions, my hands shaking. The pattern was clear. Ryan wasn't just staying at my hotel, he was using it. "You should see this," Grace said, walking into my office without knocking. She dropped a stack of papers on my desk. "Remember those Boston properties he showed you? They're all in foreclosure. The Carter family business is underwater, And Ryan's brother Mason is trying to salvage what's left. Does Lily know? Lily won't listen to anyone right now. She thinks she's in love. I pulled up the security cameras. Ryan and Lily were in the hotel restaurant, heads close together over Sophie. He was showing her something on his phone, and she was nodding enthusiastically. The same way I probably looked when he first showed me those fake investment properties. We need to talk to Mason, Grace said. No, I closed my laptop. First, I need to hear Ryan explain these transactions himself. I found him in the bar that evening, nursing a whiskey. Lily was nowhere in sight. Small mercies. Eva, he smiled that practiced smile. I was just thinking about you. Funny how that works. I sat down, sliding a printout across the bar. I was thinking about you too. And these unusual patterns in our credit card transactions. His expression didn't change, but his knuckles whitened around his glass. You know how corporate expenses work. Sometimes things need to be structured creatively. Creative like your Boston properties? The ones in foreclosure? Now the smile faltered. You've been checking up on me. You're using my hotel for money laundering, Ryan. The question is why? You're making dangerous accusations. His voice dropped, all charm vanishing. Accusations that could hurt a lot of people, including Lily. My blood ran cold. Leave my sister out of this. She's already in it. She signed the partnership papers this morning. Didn't she tell you? She's investing her inheritance in our venture. The room spun. Lily's inheritance, the money our parents left her, the money I'd been managing until she turned 30. She'd been asking about accessing it early. You son of a bitch. Business is business, Eva. Your hotel's perfect, established, respectable, just under the radar. We could help each other. Or, he shrugged, things could get complicated. They already are. I stood up, fighting to keep my voice steady. You have 24 hours to check out. You might want to discuss that with your new partner first. He finished his whiskey. Lily's quite excited about our plans. It would be a shame to disappoint her. I walked away before I could do something stupid, like throw his whiskey in his face. In the lobby, my phone buzzed with an email notification. Lily had requested an emergency transfer of funds to a new business account. The paperwork was already filed. Grace was waiting in my office. Mason Carter called back. He wants to meet. Too late. I showed her the transfer request. Ryan's already got what he wanted, access to clean money through a legitimate business. What are you going to do? I looked at the security feed again. Ryan was still at the bar, now on his phone, probably moving pieces into place. He thought he had me cornered. The protective sister, the cautious businesswoman, too afraid of scandal to fight back. But he'd made one crucial mistake. The Thompson Hotel wasn't just my business. It was my parents' legacy. And I'd learned long ago that sometimes the only way to protect what you love is to burn everything else to the ground. Call Mason back, I said. Tell him to meet us tomorrow, and Grace, bring everything you've found. It's time to show Ryan Carter what creative accounting really looks like. Mason Carter looked nothing like his brother. Where Ryan was all polished charm, Mason carried himself with the worn-down dignity of someone who'd spent years cleaning up other people's messes. We met at a coffee shop 3 blocks from the hotel, far enough that Ryan wouldn't accidentally spot us. The money laundering started small, Mason said, spreading documents across the table. Family business was failing. Ryan promised he could save it. By the time I realized what he was doing, we were in too deep. Grace studied the papers, her event planner's eye for detail catching what others might miss. These transactions matched the patterns we found at the hotel. He's done this before, I asked, though I already knew the answer. Mason's laugh was bitter. The Thompson Hotel is his 4th attempt. The others... He slid over a newspaper clipping. 3 historic hotels, all foreclosed within months of Ryan's involvement. My phone buzzed. Lily again. I ignored it, but Mason noticed. He's good at finding pressure points, people's weaknesses. My sister isn't weak, I snapped. No, but she wants something. Ryan's excellent at spotting what people want. He pulled out another document. Like this proposal for the Morrison building renovation. It's brilliant, isn't it? Exactly what you've been dreaming of. I stared at the familiar plans. My plans repackaged with Ryan's company letterhead. He stole this from my office. Probably while Lily was distracting you, Grace said quietly. The night of the gathering. My phone buzzed again. This time, I looked. A photo from Lily, her and Ryan at the Morrison building, hard hats on, champagne in hand. Breaking ground next week, the caption read. Dreams do come true. He can't break ground, I said. He doesn't own. Check the county records, Mason interrupted. See, as of this morning, Carter Developments owns the Morrison building, purchased with capital from their newest partner. My sister's inheritance. Our parents' legacy, handed over to a con man because I'd been too slow, too cautious, too afraid to act. Why are you helping us? Grace asked Mason. He's your brother. Because next time he won't stop at bankruptcy. Someone's going to get hurt or worse. Mason gathered his papers. But I never had this conversation with you. Ryan's dangerous when he's cornered. So am I said. But Mason was already walking away, leaving behind one final document, a USB drive labelled Carter Family Financial Records. Back at the hotel, Lily was waiting in my office. Why aren't you answering my calls? This is important, Eva. The Morrison project is happening. With what money, Lily? Your inheritance? The money Mom and Dad left to secure your future? To secure our future, she corrected. Ryan showed me the numbers. We could triple our investment in 18 months. Like he tripled investments at these hotels? I pulled up the newspaper articles Mason had shared. All bankrupted, all under investigation for fraud. That's not... He explained those. They were timing issues, market conditions. He's using you to get to me, to get to this hotel. God, you're so paranoid. Lily slammed her hand on my desk. Not everyone is trying to hurt us. Some people actually want to help us succeed. Like Ryan helped his other partners succeed. I played the security footage from the bar, his threat about Lily still clear in the audio. She watched, face paling. That's not... He was just protecting our investment. No, he was protecting his scheme. And you handed him everything he needed to destroy us. Lily's phone chimed. Ryan, of course. She looked at it, then at me, tears welling up. You're wrong about him, I'll prove it. She ran out before I could stop her. Through my office window, I watched her cross the lobby, straight into Ryan's waiting arms. He looked up, caught my eye, and smiled that perfect, practiced smile. I plugged Mason's USB drive into my computer. If Ryan wanted to play with family legacies, fine. But he'd forgotten something crucial about the Thompson sisters. We learned about revenge at our father's knee, watching him build this hotel empire one calculated risk at a time. Time to show Ryan Carter what a real calculated risk looks like. The Morrison Building groundbreaking ceremony felt like watching my own funeral. I stood at the back of the crowd, Grace beside me, as Ryan worked the room like a master conductor. Lily sparkled at his side, playing the role of adoring partner perfectly. The Thompson-Carter vision represents more than just renovation, Ryan announced to the gathered investors. It's about family legacy, about trust, about building something lasting together. My fingers tightened around the USB drive in my pocket. Mason's data had revealed everything. The shell companies, the laundered money, the pattern of destruction left in Ryan's wake. But it also showed something worse. Lily's signature on documents she couldn't possibly understand, making her legally complicit in his schemes. You okay? Grace whispered. I nodded, watching Ryan guide Lily toward the ceremonial shovel. They looked perfect together, both glowing with anticipated triumph. My sister hadn't spoken to me in days, not since our fight in my office. And now, Ryan continued, I'd like to invite Eva Thompson to join us. After all, this project wouldn't exist without her original vision. The crowd turned, expecting me to step forward. Ryan's smile was razor-sharp, daring me to make a scene. He knew I wouldn't risk exposing him here, not with Lily's future on the line. I walked to the podium, accepted the second shovel he offered. Thank you, Ryan. You're right. Family legacy is everything. His eyes narrowed slightly at my tone. I turned to the crowd, gripping the shovel like a weapon. Which is why I'm pleased to announce that the Thompson Hotel will be partnering exclusively with Carter Developments' parent company for all future projects. Ryan's practiced smile flickered. Behind him, I saw Grace slip away from the crowd. Right on cue. In fact, I continued, I've already submitted the paperwork to the board. They were particularly interested in the company's financial records. The blood drained from Ryan's face. He knew exactly which records I meant, the ones Mason had provided, the ones Grace was delivering to the board right now. Eva, Lily stepped forward, confusion clouding her features. What are you doing? Protecting our legacy. I turned back to the crowd. If you'll excuse me, I have an urgent meeting with the hotel board. I'm sure Ryan can handle the rest of the ceremony. I walked away, counting steps. 3, 4, 5. Eva, Ryan's voice carried across the lot. A word? We met halfway between the crowd and the street, his charm replaced by barely contained fury. Whatever you think you're doing, I'm doing exactly what you taught me, Ryan. Making calculated risks. You have no idea what you're risking, he hissed. That USB drive, Mason had no right. Mason's not the only one who kept records. I pulled out my phone, showed him the screen. Remember that night in the bar when you threatened my sister? Hotel security cameras catch everything. His mask slipped completely then, showing the desperate man beneath. You'll destroy her too. Those documents she signed are void as of an hour ago. The board's lawyers found some interesting irregularities in the filing dates. Lily appeared beside us, her face pale. What documents? Ryan, what is she talking about? Nothing, sweetheart. Just business details. Show her, I cut in. Show her the real contracts she signed. The ones that would have made her liable when everything fell apart. Ryan reached for Lily's arm, but she stepped back. For the first time, I saw doubt in my sister's eyes. The groundbreaking, Ryan said quickly. We need to finish. Is cancelled, Grace called out, walking back from the hotel. The board sends their regrets, and the police send their regards. The crowd was dispersing now, investors muttering among themselves. Ryan's perfect ceremony was unravelling thread by thread. You're bluffing, he said, but his eyes darted toward his car. Am I? I stepped closer. Run if you want. But remember, I learned about revenge from the best. You. He backed away, mask completely shattered. Lily stood between us, tears streaming down her face as she finally saw the truth. The sirens started in the distance, growing closer. Ryan turned and ran, leaving everything behind. The ceremony, the schemes, my sister. I reached for Lily's hand. She flinched but didn't pull away. I'm sorry, she whispered. I know. I squeezed her hand, watching Ryan's figure disappear around the corner. Let's go home. The real work, healing our family, rebuilding trust, was just beginning. But at least now we could face it together, without any more perfect lies standing between us. 3 days after Ryan disappeared, I found Lily unconscious in her apartment, an empty bottle of sleeping pills beside her. The note simply read, I'm sorry I ruined everything. Now I sit in the hospital waiting room, my hands shaking as I scroll through the messages flooding my phone. The hotel board wants an emergency meeting. The police need another statement. Grace keeps sending updates about the media circus gathering outside the Thompson. Miss Thompson, a detective appears, notebook in hand. We need to discuss the documents your sister signed. She didn't know, I say automatically, the same words I've repeated for days. Ryan manipulated her. The evidence suggests otherwise. He slides over a photo, Lily and Ryan at a bank, both smiling as they signed papers. These transfers were made weeks before the Morrison project. My chest tightens. That's impossible, the timeline. Shows your sister was an active participant in Mr. Carter's financial schemes, unless you have evidence proving otherwise. I think of Mason's USB drive now in police custody. The records that saved me might damn Lily. My revenge against Ryan could cost my sister everything. Grace appears, face drawn. Eva, the board's here. They're talking about forcing a sale. They can't. They can if they prove the hotel was used for money laundering, with or without your knowledge. The detective watches this exchange with interest. Anything you'd like to add to your statement, Miss Thompson? The hospital room door opens before I can respond. The doctor's expression tells me everything before she speaks. We've stabilized her, but... I push past them all, needing to see Lily. She looks small in the hospital bed, tubes snaking from her arms. The sister I tried so desperately to protect, now broken by my need for revenge. You should have told me. Mason's voice makes me jump. He stands in the doorway looking as haunted as I feel. About Lily's involvement. I could have helped. Like you helped by giving me those records? My laugh sounds hollow. Your evidence might send her to prison. Ryan called me. Mason steps closer, voice low. He's willing to make a deal. He'll take full responsibility, claim he forged Lily's signatures, if you drop the charges and sell him the hotel. He's lying. Probably. But right now he's offering you a choice. Your hotel or your sister. Through the window I can see reporters gathering. The Thompson Hotel scandal grows by the hour. The perfect revenge story turning into a nightmare. My phone buzzes again, an email from the board. They've called an emergency vote for tomorrow. Without my parents controlling shares which I signed over to Lily months ago as part of her inheritance, I can't stop them. Time's running out, Mason says quietly. Ryan's flight leaves tonight. After that, his offer dies, and Lily faces the consequences. I look at my sister, remembering her as a child, always following me around the hotel, dreaming of making it grander. Now those dreams might destroy us both. He planned this, I realize. From the beginning. The hotel, Lily, all of it. I thought I was destroying him, but he's still playing the game, Mason finishes. Question is, are you willing to lose everything to win? Grace appears with coffee I didn't ask for. Board's getting restless. They want an answer about the sale. I take the coffee, letting its heat burn my palms. The pain helps me think. Ryan calculated everything except one detail. He assumed I'd choose between my sister and my hotel. I pull out my phone, dialing a number I memorized from Mason's files. Hello, Mr. Chen. This is Eva Thompson. I believe you lost some money in one of Ryan Carter's previous ventures. I have a proposition for you. Mason's eyes widen as he realizes what I'm doing. Ava, wait! But I'm already speaking, trading the last piece of my soul for one final shot at salvation. Sometimes, to save everything, you have to be willing to lose it all first. The game isn't over. It's just becoming something darker than even Ryan imagined. The private terminal at the airport was empty except for Ryan, his perfectly tailored suit now wrinkled from hours of waiting. I watched through the glass as he checked his phone again, probably wondering why his escape plane hadn't arrived. He's alone, Grace confirmed through my earpiece. Lily's documents are ready. I pushed through the door, the click of my heels echoing across polished floors. Ryan's head snapped up, relief washing over his face. Eva, I knew you'd make the right choice. Did you? I placed a manila envelope on the seat between us. The hotel's transfer papers as requested. He reached for them, but I held up my hand. First, sign these. I slid over another set of documents. Confession of fraud, absolving Lily of any involvement. Of course. His smile was genuine. He thought he'd won. I meant what I said. I never wanted to hurt her. No, you just wanted to use her to hurt me. Business is business. He started signing without reading, confident in his victory. You understand that now, don't you? Sometimes we have to sacrifice the things we love. Like your brother sacrificed everything for you? Ryan's pen paused. Mason made his choices. He did, starting with that USB drive he gave me. I watched his face carefully. But he wasn't the only one keeping records, was he, Mr. Chen? The door opened behind me. Ryan's face went ash-white as James Chen walked in, flanked by federal agents. The thing about revenge, Ryan, I said quietly, is that your old victims are often happy to help destroy you, and you can't. He grabbed for the hotel transfer papers, but I pulled them back. Those? They're fake? Just like the confession you just signed. I smiled his own practiced smile back at him. Business is business, right? The hotel board, already voted this morning. Turns out Mr. Chen bought enough shares to swing the decision. Your previous victims were very generous once they learned they could help take you down. Ryan lunged for the door, but the agents were faster. As they read him his rights, I saw Masons step out of the shadows. I'm sorry, brother, Mason said softly, but someone had to stop you. You betrayed me? Ryan struggled against the handcuffs. For her? No. Mason met my eyes. For all of us you destroyed along the way. I walked over to Ryan close enough to see the desperation in his eyes. You were right about one thing. Sometimes we have to sacrifice the things we love. I pulled out my phone, showed him the live feed from the Thompson Hotel. Like your reputation. On the screen, reporters swarmed as federal agents carried boxes of evidence through the lobby. Years of Ryan's careful schemes exposed for the world to see. You'll lose everything, he spat. Once people know the hotel was involved, they'll know it helped bring down a criminal enterprise. I pocketed my phone. The Thompson Hotel becomes the hero of the story. Lily becomes the innocent victim who helped expose the truth. And you become exactly what you always were, a con man who finally got caught. Eva. His voice cracked, that perfect facade finally shattering completely. Please, I'll give you anything. You already did. You taught me how to destroy someone completely. I turned away, nodding to the agents. Goodbye, Ryan. As they led him away, I heard him shouting promises and threats, but they meant nothing now. Grace appeared at my side, squeezing my hand. Lily's awake, she said. She's asking for you. Tell her I'm coming, with good news. Mason stopped me before I could leave. Was it worth it? Becoming like him to destroy him? I thought about Lily in that hospital bed, about our parents' legacy, about all the people Ryan had ruined. I didn't become like him. I became what I needed to be to protect what matters. Through the terminal windows, I watched Ryan being loaded into a federal vehicle. He looked small now, ordinary, all his power stripped away with his illusions. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying someone. Sometimes it's about revealing who they truly are, and who you can become in the process. The Morrison Building's renovations started on a Tuesday, just like the day Ryan first walked into my hotel. This time, though, I stood alone at the groundbreaking, watching the sunrise paint the old brick walls gold. You're here early. Grace appeared beside me, coffee in hand. The ceremony's not for hours. Just wanted to see it one last time before everything changes. The construction crew arrived, their equipment rumbling to life. Each crash of demolition inside felt like justice, tearing down the last traces of Ryan's schemes to build something real in their place. My phone buzzed, a news alert about Ryan's sentencing. I deleted it without reading. Some endings matter less than new beginnings. Lily's waiting in the lobby, Grace said quietly. She wants to help with the project. I turned away from the construction site, walking toward the hotel. Through the windows, I could see Lily at the front desk, reviewing blueprints with Mason. She looked stronger now, more like herself, though shadows still lingered under her eyes. The Feng Shui consultant says this layout is all wrong, Lily said as I approached. We should move the main entrance. Since when do we care about Feng Shui? Since I started researching Asian hotel designs. She pushed forward a folder of ideas. If we're partnering with Mr. Chen's hotel group, we should incorporate elements that appeal to international guests. I studied the plans, seeing echoes of our parents' original vision mixed with something new, something ours. Mason gathered his papers. I should go. Ryan's sentencing. Stay, I said. We could use a good lawyer for the permits. He hesitated, surprise flickering across his face. Even after everything? Especially after everything. I met his eyes. Some people deserve second chances. The hotel lobby filled with morning light as guests began trickling down for breakfast. I watched them move through the space, unaware they were standing in what had almost been a crime scene. Now it was just a hotel again. Or maybe it always had been, and Ryan had been the only illusion. Eva, Lily touched my arm. About the inheritance. I want to invest it properly this time. In us. In this. She gestured to the blueprints. If you'll trust me again. Trust isn't the problem. I picked up the Feng Shui plans. But maybe we start smaller. One renovation at a time. Grace appeared with more coffee and a stack of newspapers. They're calling us the hotel that caught a criminal. Great for business, terrible for headlines. Speaking of business, Mason pulled out one final document. Ryan's assets are being liquidated. His share of the Morrison project is available for purchase. I looked at Lily, seeing the same thought cross her mind. How much? Less than you'd think. No one wants to touch anything with his name on it. Except us, Lily said firmly. We'll take it. Outside, another crash echoed from the construction site. Through the dust, I could see the Morrison building's original stonework emerging, beautiful despite decades of neglect. You know what Mom used to say about old buildings? I asked Lily. That they're like people. Sometimes you have to strip away everything false to find what's real underneath. She smiled, really smiled for the first time in weeks. And then you rebuild. I spread the blueprints across the front desk, our family gathering around them, Grace with her practical suggestions, Mason with his legal notes, Lily with her international designs. All of us damaged by Ryan's deception, all of us choosing to build something new from the ruins. The morning sun reached the crown moulding, the expensive, original details that had first caught Ryan's eye. They still gleamed, but differently now. Less like fool's gold, more like something that had survived the fire and emerged stronger. I picked up a pen, ready to mark changes on the blueprints. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying what's broken. Sometimes it's about reclaiming what was always yours and building it into something even your enemies couldn't imagine. All right, I said, let's make something beautiful.